I mean, interestingly, gold is taking over as the world's reserve, not reserve currency, but the world's reserve. Basel III declared gold as a tier one asset next to US debt. And I think in the next months, maybe a year or so, it could even replace the dollar. The dollar took over a transition period from the pound as a world reserve currency. And so really looking at what gold has done or the pound has done in terms of gold gives us an insight into the future of what it's going to do with the dollar. The pound, the dollar, the fiat currency, i.e. it has value because the government says so. Not all else fundamentally. Yes, the US can back it up with weapons and war and destruction.
Gold is increasingly being recognized as a key global asset, especially after it was declared a Tier 1 asset by Basel III regulations, putting it on par with US debt. This suggests a shift towards gold as a major reserve asset, which could challenge the US dollar's dominance as the world's reserve currency, similar to how the dollar once overtook the British pound. The value of currencies like the dollar is largely based on government backing, but gold's intrinsic value may lead to its growing prominence in global finance. The price of gold is around $1,950 to $2,000 per troy ounce. Ian Everard, a respected finance and investment expert specializing in commodities and precious metals, talks despite the vast increase in fiat currency since 1980, gold's value hasn't risen proportionately, highlighting a disconnect between real wealth and currency creation. With concerns over the rise of central bank digital currencies and increased surveillance, many may turn to tangible assets like gold and silver for security. Some industry voices downplay the potential of these assets, but given the massive currency creation, it's possible for silver to exceed $50 and hold that value. Ultimately, as fiat currencies lose value, gold and silver are likely to remain the true store of wealth. Recent news shows that the military's demand for silver is set to grow, especially with the ongoing supply of advanced equipment to Ukraine. Much of this equipment, including electronics and weapon systems, contains silver. Once used in military hardware, the silver often becomes inaccessible, either fixed in the equipment for decades or destroyed in use. The military-industrial complex's growing reliance on silver could significantly impact demand, though quantifying this use might require deep research into the accounts of major military contractors. India aims to become a major player in solar energy, and the US is also pushing to become a self-sufficient solar producer, potentially spurred by recent government policies. This push is partly driven by concerns over reliance on China for supplies. Solar energy, particularly in the right locations, offers affordable and independent energy. However, the silver used in solar panels is likely to remain trapped in them for decades, as panels aren't currently being recycled, which could tighten silver supply in the long term. On average, about 0.1 to 0.2 grams of silver is used per watt of solar panel capacity. As you watch these clips, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you're instantly alerted whenever we post new content. Thanks for your support, and enjoy the video.
We have 55 times more fiat currency in the world than we did in 1980. Gold has not gone up 50 times since 1980. It's a fraction of that. Gold has gone up 4.2 times in dollar-denominated terms. We haven't got, you divide the 55 by 4.2, you've got roughly, 12. There is not 12 times more real wealth in the world than there was in 1980. These things measure out, so we're going to get human action will have an effect as people will run to get into something real, tangible, private that they can hold, non-disclosable event purchasing it. As people realize, the closer and closer we get to a central bank currency trap where everything is coded, everything is recorded, and potentially actions are permitted or not permitted. I think as people realize, some people's perception will be this is a possibility. I believe it's a certainty. So that will cause a run to gold. But you mentioned, and I think these figures coming out of the main street, I think it's damage control. We've just recently had Jeffrey Christian of CPM Group saying he expects to see $50 silver, but it won't be able to maintain that price. And I'm thinking, let's be polite here because he is a respected individual in the industry. He's not taking account of mathematics, because to say that it can't hold $50, well, what if we've created another $10 trillion by then? We're creating 1 trillion every 96 days. So of course silver can hold $50 nominal. What if there's a rush to investment demand? What if there's a a front running of industrial users to silver. There's so many reasons why silver could run and exceed 50 and hold that comfortably. So I think a lot of this leaking is damage control. And to that suggests that the real people in the know, that are pulling the strings, they know where this ends, where the fiat currency is zero value and real things are money. And gold and silver are the historic money, the current money, and the future money. They will be the store of wealth. The industrial use, I mean, the amount of equipment we're supplying to Ukraine, I mean, generally it's older US equipment that is due to time out or is timing out. So that will be replaced with more advanced equipment, more electronics, more silver. And this is part of the military-industrial complex. So yes, the military use, how you would ever find that out, maybe somebody could do the research, look at Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, Boeing, all of the big military contractors. Maybe somewhere in their accounts they state how much silver they purchase and use. But yes, that is a huge use. Not only is it a huge use, a lot of that is going to stay fixed in equipment, possibly for decades. And if that, whatever it is, the guidance system, the actual weapon, whatever the use of silver, it's trapped, if not practically destroyed. I mean, when a cruise missile goes off, I mean, yes, the silver isn't destroyed, but it becomes inaccessible. It's, vaporized. So absolutely, the military use is going to be growing for sure. So solar first, I mean, India wants to be a major dominant player in solar. The US is becoming one. Possibly one of the things that the Inflation Act that our current administration put into place might actually have a positive benefit, is that the aim is to make the US an independent solar producer, the whole process. And I think there's a wisdom in that to secure that possibility. It could go horribly wrong with China very rapidly. I think it's going horribly wrong in China rapidly, so we could lose access to that supply. But yeah, solar, if you have the right location, it's very, very affordable energy that's independent of the oil cartels. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what the math is. I've heard there's about 20 grams, 2/3 of a troy ounce per solar panel. Once that's in a solar panel, that could be in that panel for 40 or 50 years. At the moment, they're not being practically recycled. So yes, that the solar use is going to trap.
Everard suggests when you purchase gold and silver, it's typically a private, unreported event unless you use over $10,000 in cash. This privacy is likely intentional, as those in the know are quietly accumulating these tangible assets. The financial system is highly overinflated, with wealth often existing only as digital entries that aren't real until converted into tangible goods or assets. The current financial bubble is fragile, and when it bursts, people will rush to secure real assets like gold and silver, which are among the few things that will hold value when the digital wealth illusion collapses. However, the price of silver is approximately $24 to $26 per troy ounce. Due to the current situation, government decides to somehow shift on osmium as a wealth asset. Osmium, the rarest non-radioactive element in the universe, is currently priced around $1,500 per gram. In its crystalline form, it is even scarcer, with only 20 to 40 tons potentially mineable from the entire Earth. The Osmium Institute, which has a monopoly on crystalline osmium production, plans to produce just over 1/3 of a ton, about the volume of 2.5 basketballs. Due to its extreme scarcity, osmium won't replace other tangible assets, but for those who hold it, it could serve as an exceptional store of wealth. Let's get back to the interview.
You purchase gold and silver at the moment, zero reportable event, unless you use over $10,000 in cash. I think that loophole has been left because the people in the know are stacking up with gold and silver, and they would rather it was a very private event. So going back to the size of the bubble, I would say it already has crashed. In effect, that this wealth does not exist. It's digits on a server in a desert somewhere, using a lot of electricity and a lot of silver to maintain that data. This is musical chairs. The music is playing, everybody's running around, having a nice party. They think, if they understand the game of musical chairs, when your music stops, only one chair gets removed. This time, in my opinion, and a lot of other people's, when the music stops, there'll only be 1 or 2 chairs left. So if you've got perceived wealth stored as digits, presume it doesn't exist. Because it doesn't until you've bought goods, services, whatever. tangible assets, it does not exist until you've converted it into something real that you can eat, live in, rent, you name it, grow, farmland, forestry. And this is a problem. We have become so over financialized. We've got financial services on top of financial services, layers and layers and layers. This is all fugazi. You know, that famous word, I think that was used in The Big Short. And it is fugazi. If your wealth is digits on a server somewhere or servers, do not count that will keep you in your retirement or send you on a holiday or buy a house, because when there is a rush to the exit, it's just not going to happen. You know, often the analogy of a fire in a theater with one door, very few people get out, you know, or trying to put the Hoover Dam through a hose pipe. They just can't flow through. I mean, one good infographic is Exeter's Pyramid, where you have degrees of wealth getting more and more theoretical, more fugazi at the top. When this starts to collapse, it's not necessarily uniform, but you will get a rush, a run into more and more stable assets. And ultimately, the end, the only thing that will count is gold. And then on the tip of that, silver, possibly some other tangible assets if you understand the market and you've got good grasp of that, good control of that. But that's still open to taxation, foreclosure, all sorts of things government can do. So yes, I would say this bubble actually has burst because it's fairy dust. It just doesn't exist. When people realize that, that's when you get the physical burst. Starts January 2017 at about $565. You've got the euro chart there, so multiply by add about 8% to that. We're now around $1,500 a gram. It's a fascinating material in the crystalline form. Osmium in the raw metallic form is fascinating as the rarest non-radioactive element in the known universe. Practically different figures are being given, maybe 20 tons, maybe 40 tons could theoretically be mined once we've finished mining the whole of the Earth that is accessible. Interesting development in the crystalline form is the rarest form of the rarest element. So you've got a multiplication in scarcity. The Osmium Institute, which is a private monopoly who takes the crystalline osmium from the Swiss manufacturer, which is another private monopoly. They have no competition. They've decided they're going to produce just over 1/3 of a ton. To put that into context, that is 2.5 size 7 basketballs in volume. That will be the total production, a 10-inch cube, 10 inch by 10 inch by 10 inch cube. That scarcity is hard to grasp. So can it replace it? It can't replace anything else as a tangible asset because there's so little of it. But for those who do hold it, it's going to do incredibly well as a store of wealth.
As the global financial landscape evolves, tangible assets like gold, silver, and even rare elements like osmium are gaining prominence. With increasing concerns over fiat currency value and the potential for economic instability, these assets offer a stable store of wealth. Their inherent value and scarcity make them critical considerations for those seeking long-term financial security. How might the long-term scarcity of silver affect its price and availability in the global market? Share your thoughts on Ian Everard's insights in the comments below. Also, remember to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications to stay updated with more content like this. See you next time.